My involvement with Midnight Run started off one night when I was sleeping on a park bench, and some people pulled up and got out of their cars and said, "Hi, we're from Midnight Run. Could you use a sandwich, a cup of soup, or a clean shirt?" I grew up in a nice upper middle class home, went to college, graduated, and then proceeded to mess up my life through drug use to the point where eventually I found myself living on the streets of New York City. And that was like a real change from everything that I'd ever experienced before. So the first time Midnight Run came by, it was something of a revelation to me. I'm Dale Williams, the executive director of Midnight Run. That sounds like a great title, but doesn't really mean a lot because I'm actually the only full-time employee. The real work is done by volunteers from more than 100 different churches, schools, synagogues, other civic groups. And we have about 25 groups per week during the school year go out to give out things to the homeless.
My name is Chazi Jessen, and I'm the social work intern here at the Hill at Hunter College. Midnight Run is an independent organization who partners with us to help bring food and clothing to the homeless of New York City. And tonight, there are a group of 8 of us. We're going to be spending the night until about midnight, handing out the sandwiches that you see before you, the clothing that's all behind me over there. And more importantly, we're going to be bringing compassion and conversation to individuals who, during the day, are just walked by. People just walk right by them during the day in the streets, and people ignore them. If they're lucky, they'll toss pennies to them, and they rarely ever have someone who has a human conversation with them. And that's one of the key events of what's going to happen tonight. So.
My name is Evgenia. I'm a freshman at Hunter College. I started going into the Hillel, and I just heard about the Midnight Round because they do it every month. A lot of people can donate money and go to certain organizations, but a project like this, you're out in the street and you see these people and you just find out what these people really need as opposed to someone telling you that they need food or money or clothes. I really want to get more of an understanding of why these people are out there, what their experience is, and a lot of times you don't know why exactly people might be on the streets.
I kind of divide being homeless into a few different segments. There was the part where, when I was first homeless, which was, I knew nobody. It seemed like no one wanted to know me. People looked through you like you're not even there. I was hungry. I was cold. I was dirty. I was totally in despair.
I'm like really anxious now. I just want to get out and like go and hopefully it won't rain either.
The initial period of being homeless was, pretty awful for me. There was, I had thought before I knew what being cold was. I thought being cold when you go out with the light jacket on and it's like, oh, it's, 30 degrees. I should have worn my heavier jacket. But I discovered being cold really was trying to sleep outdoors when it was like 5 degrees. And I had a set of drapes I'd found in the trash to use for a blanket, and being so cold that I couldn't go to sleep. And similarly, I thought that I knew what it was like to be hungry. I thought being hungry before I was homeless, you skip breakfast and you can't wait for lunch. But I actually went, a couple of days without eating when I was first homeless before I kind of got over my fear of other homeless people so they could kind of steer me to where soup kitchens were. So, I learned that's what really, being hungry really was. I guess the worst part of being homeless for me, my worst memories, are being dirty. I'd never thought about that before. If you're dirty, you just go jump in the shower. But all of a sudden, I didn't have access to a shower, and I didn't have any soap or shampoo, so I was filthy. I stank. And I knew it. And it was like so humiliating, so degrading that I didn't have words for it. That's why I think, it's just like, if there's anything else, it's like every time we go out, to me, it's not that that's the most important thing, but it's like I really hate to go out without enough soap, shampoo, and stuff if people need it, those kind of toiletry things. And it was lonely too, even just having no one to talk to. That was, to me, the worst part of being homelessness, kind of like having no one to talk to, and the dirty, or those two things kind of run together as worse to me than the physical things of being hungry or cold. But they kind of go together. If you're kind of dirty and if you smell, no, it's not exactly people are like lining up to talk to you. But just being part of the homelessness, it's like people either look to you like you're not there, or they look at you with disgust. Oh, just another homeless bum.
We're in neighborhoods giving out food and clothing in places that I can't afford to go to dinner in. And that's where these guys are living. And how do these people who live in these neighborhoods walk past these guys day after day after day after day and with blinders on and just not see it? Not that everybody doesn't see it, but I don't know, I think in the beginning I expected to be in Washington Heights and Harlem and, not on Fifth Avenue and 68th Street. Just amazing.
I feel like it's basic humanity. There are people who are really struggling, and so how could you deny them their basic needs?
You definitely start to get very personal about taking care of them, making sure you have enough scarves on a December run, and feeling bad when they all want sneakers and you don't have sneakers that fit them, and it becomes very personal.
Actually, I didn't expect to have so much conversation with these people and to get so many stories. Like, people are so willing to tell their story, and you find out so many interesting things. Like, people went to college, and I mean, I didn't hear anybody talk about how they ended up on the street, but just knowing that people who may have been just like us, like have been just as fortunate as us, could have had such an unfortunate circumstance that put them in this situation. So it's very humbling, to say the least.
My best memories of Midnight Run from 19 years ago or whatever aren't of, I mean, I can remember a particular coat someone gave me. I can remember a particular turkey sandwich from 19, 20 years ago. But to me, the real great memories were standing around just laughing, talking, having a good time. We go out on midnight runs, we run into people that sing for us and recite poetry for us, and a few people that think they're stand-up comedians who, okay, maybe they don't have a future as a profession doing it, but that to me is just the essence of Midnight Run.
And then there's Buddy, who lives on the west side somewhere. We run into him on the west side all the time, and he sings. He's a singer. He serenades as you pull up, and he serenades you off. He does a lot of sort of the Rat Pack ballady stuff, and he's sort of fun. It makes you wonder about, how people did end up being out here.
I'm still amazed at how, like, someone is saying people are so appreciative of little things. And every single time, every time we stop, like, it's been the same way.
So guys, this church here, there's usually, I'm going to pull over on the right up here, and around the corner, there's usually a whole bunch of boxes. By this time, they're probably in their boxes around that corner of the church. Some of them may not want to get up if they're cozy. You may have to just bring stuff over to them, because it's getting to that time of night where they don't always want to get up.
After I was homeless for a while, I was homeless for a couple of years. So then after I was homeless for a while, I got over my fear of the other homeless people, started talking to them, went to sleep at a spot where a bunch of other people slept, which was safer than where I'd been, and there's like a community of people that kind of looked out for each other, so I wasn't so super lonely. That spot was a spot where Midnight Run went, not as regularly as we go to spots now, but every week or so. So I got to know people from Midnight Run. I was cleaner, I could start looking for work. Other people told me where soup kitchens were, so I wasn't totally starving all the time. And then, toward the end, I was getting part-time work. I always had some money in my pocket. It took a while to find jobs. If you don't have an address, you don't have a phone number. This was before the days that, that poor people could afford cell phones. So I just didn't have a phone, which made it really hard to apply for work. But so there was this kind of, real nadir of, at the beginning, and then I kind of built things up, and they got better, and eventually got off the streets.
So I was over at the church door on the side where all the guys had sort of crawled into their boxes already, and a guy came out of the church and was locking the door and said to one of the guys who hadn't come out of his box, "Oh, you getting something to eat tonight, huh? That's more than I'm gonna get." And I said, "You have a job. You should just be grateful for that." And we're standing amongst these guys who are laying in their boxes. And he turns to me and he says, "Are you kidding? This job? I'd rather be like them and be hanging around all day with nothing to do."
Oh my gosh.
And he walked away, and I just looked at the guy who I was standing next to, who was in his box, and I just shook my head. And he said, "Yeah, you know what? Even with us here, there are people who just don't get it."
You know, I mean, first of all, I mean, Midnight Run is not a solution for homelessness. We've never claimed to be. You know, it's just kind of a way, first of all, to take care of some of the absolute basic needs that people aren't being taken care of, but also to give an opportunity for people to kind. I mean, half of what we do is what it does for the volunteers. To me, and hopefully, it changes their attitudes, not just about homelessness, but about other groups. You know, people have this kind of idea the homeless are all very different from us, crazy or high or whatever, and people go out on a midnight run and they connect on a one-to-one level. And once you've spoken to Bobby, who sleeps on the steps of so and so church, you can't think of the homeless anymore. It's Bobby and Smokey and Frank and Peaches and whoever the people that you talk to. And to me, that's part of a huge part of what Midnight Run does. Every time I take a new group out, usually it's some high school group or something, and I'm coming back, and on the way back, someone says, "Wow, they're just like us," or some variation of that, which means they didn't think that to start with. And so to me, that lesson is just as much as the things that we provide as far as importance. We're not perfect. We're just people sharing a little bit of extra that these communities tend to have.
We should all do what we can to affect that one person, and I think Midnight Run is a huge contributor to those sorts of things. Once you get hooked on this sort of thing, it's hard to remember to go back to regular life, at least for me.
It reminds me of the story of
Oh no.
the boy who's walking on the beach, and there's starfish all over the beach everywhere, and he's picking them up and throwing them back in the ocean so that they can survive. This old man walks by and sees him doing that, and he says, "Little boy, what are you doing? Don't you see the beach is full of these starfish? How are you possibly going to save them all? You can't possibly make a difference." And the boy just looked at him and picked up a starfish, threw it back in, and said, "Well, it makes a difference to that one." And so, as cliche as that story is, and as cliche as that sounds, it's really, homelessness in New York City is a massive problem. And it's something that's beyond the scope of what we're doing in our own little van tonight. But, we're making a huge difference for the people who are coming across tonight. And so, even though we're making small dents, it makes a difference to these people's lives tonight.